ofe utubaa kee nagadaani orombiyaa darumiyaani ofe diina ofe
nu bira hajiraatuun ja'a kanumaaniin gartee xumuradhaa arra waa walitti as geenye waa walitti dhufneefis nagayaan gartee nagaya nuu kennee akka nagayaan xumurannu nu haa godhu galatooma.
Ayyee duraan dursee nagaa bultanii isiniin jedhaa warra wal beeynuun balaga wal agarree warra wal hin beeynin wal barmoota gaarii nu haa ta'u eebban walgahii banachuun aadaa Oromooti. Har'a immoo dubartiitu dura dursee eebban nu bane kunis dubartiin siinqee qabdii dubartiin siinqee lafa kennan siinqee sanirraan tarkaanfachuun hin danda'amu. Araara buusuu waan dubartiin keessa hin jirre bakka hin ga'u dhugaatti milkii gaarii fakkaata. Duraan dursee warra amantii Islaamaa hordoftan Musliimotaan Ramadaan Kariim isiniin jedha. Akkasuma Ramadaanni dhumuuf guyyaa 4 yookaan 5 hafee Eid Mubaarak. Rabbi warra baranaa akka bara dhufu nu haa godhu. Warra bilisoomee bara dhufu biyyatti galee Oromiyaatti uummata keenya wajjin soomu Rabbi nu haa godhu. Walgahiin kun waan akeekkate qaba. Hayyoota Oromoo, beektota Oromooti. Waa'ee uummata Oromoo rakkoo uummata Oromoo mari'achuuf walitti dhufu waggaatti yeroo tokko yeroo lamayyuu jechuudha. Kanaaf Rabbi Waaqni Allah walgahii keenya kana walgahii milkii walgahii wal dhageettii kan wal hubannoo nu haa godhu. Rabbiin guddaa keenya nu haa bulchu ka dubbatu ka dhugaa argu ka haqa argu Rabbi nu haa godhu. Xiqqaa keenya nu haa guddisu xiqqaan keenya ka guddatu ka baratu ka morkatu ka falmatu nu haa godhu. Wanni kana jedhuu fi abdii dargaggoota irraa qabnu dhaloota qubeetii irraa qabnu kaleessa hiriira waamame san keessatti ture. Dargaggoonni guddatanii ba'aa gabrummaa kan nurra ture kana nurraa kuffisuuf wanni isaan itti jiran kun abdachiisadha. Rabbi isaan haa gargaaru. Kanaafuu Rabbiin xiqqaa keenya nu haa guddisu guddaa keenyas nu haa bulchu. Waan walitti dhufneef kana dhugaaf walitti dhufne haqaaf walitti dhufne namatti roorrifne qe'ee namaan dhayne nutti dhufanii qe'ee keenya dhufanii diinqa keenya seenanii booroo keenya seenanii mana nu diigaa jiru nu buqqisaa jiru uumaa Rabbi nuu kenne daggala Rabbi nuu kenne gubaa jiru bishaan Rabbi nuu kenne laga Rabbi nuu kenne keessatti nu uume summeessaa jiru. Kuni faallaa uumaa Rabbiiti faallaa namoomati. Ollaa akkanaa ollaa hamaa ka keessummaan beeyne ka hingalaan beeyne Rabbiin nurraa haa galchu. Nullee warra wal qabatee hirribaa dammaqee haala hamaa kana keessaa ba'uuf mari'atee marii kana immoo Waaqayyo nu eebbisee bakkaan ga'u Rabbi nu haa godhu. Rabbi nagayaa fi rooba nu haa kennu. Nageenni kan nama hundaa haa ta'u. Roobni ka margaa bishaanii haa ta'u. Margi ka sa'aa haa ta'u. Saani ka aannanii haa ta'u. Aannan kawaatiif maatii haa ta'u. Qe'een keessan qe'ee nagayaa. Golli keessan maatii alli keessan waatii haa ta'u. Gufuun isin hin dhayin. Qoreen isin hin waraanini. Marii keenya Rabbi nu haa eebbisu nu jalaa haa dhaga'u. Qe'ee nagayaa warra nagayaatitti galaa. Naufalcha.
Obbo Jeeluu fi Aadde Zayituunaa hedduun galateeffadhaa. Obbo Lubeenis kunoo dhufaniiru. Sin hubachiisuudhumaa fi aadaa Oromoo keessatti biyyi nagaa haa ta'u yeroo jedhan haa ta'u jennee deebisna. Kanaafi akkuma aadaa sanatti akka simattan obbo Lubeetiin sin gaafadha. Obbo Lubee.
Miliqeen ture ammaas ga'eera. Egaa ulfaadhaa asitti argamuu keessaniif baay'ee nama gammachiiftu. Egaa Waaqni baga edan nagaan dabarsine, baga abjuu gaarii abjoonne, baga yaada gaarii abjoonne. Kanaafi har'ammoo Waaqa kadhanna akka walga'iin kuni seeran nu xumuramuuf akka qajeellaa ta'uuf. Waaqni nagaan nu bulche nagaan nu haa oolchu. Haa oolchu. Waaqni nagaan nu bulche nagaan nu haa oolchu. Hamtuu nurraa haa qabu. Tola nutti haa qabu. Waaqa gurraacha Waaqa dhugumaa garaa nu haa laafu. Isa malee kan biraan qabnu nun hin raaffatin. Yaa Waaq nun hin raaffatin. Waan asitti wal qabamneef araddaa namaa balleechuuf miti, ummata namaa balleechuuf miti, eenyummaa keenya irratti yaa Waaq eenyummaa keenya sirritti nu barsiisi. Hamma beeknu dubbannaa eenyummaa keenya ati immoo itti nu dabali. Waan har'a hojjetaa oollu ati nu qajeelchi. Warra milkaa'u nu godhi. Warra milkaa'u nu godhi. Yaada milkii nu dhiyeessi. Nama keenya wal jaalachiisi. Kan biyya jiraniif nagaa godhi. Kan dhugaadhaaf lolatanii irree isaanii jabeechi. Jaarsolii keenya bakka jiranitti akka nagaan jiraatan, jaarsolii keenya nagaan akka jiraatan, akka humna ta'an ati bira dhaabbadhu. Kan rakkate rakkoo oolchi. Kan ilmoo dhabeef ilmoo kenni. Kan dhibameef ati dhibee isaa fayyisi. Kan kana caalaa gaa Waaqni waan hundumaa hin beeka. Kan garaa namaa afaan namaa baay'ee haasa'uu oo dhibe kan Waaqni dhugumaa Waaqni dhugaa kan nuu kenne waan har'a hojjetaa jirru waan boru hojjetaa jirru kana garaa keenyatti kennannee fiixan nu haa baasu. Amma gaa haleellee diina haleellee jettu beeka. Haleellee 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 kananda akkasitti gaanii.
Utubaa kee nagadaani Orombiyaa Oromiyaani. Diina ofee utubaa kee nagadaani.
Okay, the next is the President's opening remarks, so I will give the opening statement. Distinguished guests, OSA members and friends, on behalf of the Executive Committee and the Board of Directors of the Oromo Studies Association, I would like to welcome you all to the 2013 OSA Annual Conference. This is the 27th OSA Conference. I personally joined OSA in 2006 and was called to the Executive Committee from 2007 and have served since then. That is about 7 years. There are many in this room who have been with OSA since its inception, both Oromos and non-Oromos. These are fathers and mothers of OSA. To those pioneers who created and built OSA, to those who fed and nurtured OSA through challenges, to those who safeguarded the association and protected it from harm, to those people like me who joined and served OSA in its maturity, we offer our gratitude and celebrate together those 27 years pursuing good scholarship on matters related to the Oromo people and the peoples of Northeast Africa. OSA scholarship has revealed that the Oromo were colonized by a black African nation, Abyssinia, with the help of European colonial powers during the last quarter of the 19th century. It has documented that the process of colonization was a bloody one. The Oromo population was reduced from 10 to 5 million in a few years of conquest. Scholars in OSA have documented that during conquest and the colonization that followed, the Oromo lost political power over their country, Oromia. With that loss, the Oromo lost their freedom to control their own country, their resources, and over their own personal lives. Oromo farmers lost their land to Nafteñas, meaning gun-carrying settlers, and became serfs and Chiseñas. Laboring for others on the land of their fathers. Actually, this part of the Oromo history resonates with me very much because my father was that Chiseña. Not only I read about it, I lived it. Oromo scholars have documented how, with the loss of their country, the Oromo lost their dignity. The Nafteñas called them Gallas, which has an ugly, derogatory connotation. It meant pagan, uncivilized, uncultured, enemy, savage, and inherently inferior. We were none of those things. In attempts to avoid this derogatory status, many Oromos were forced or persuaded to change their names to Amara name or to a Christian name upon going to school or seeking job. This part of our history resonates strongly with me because it happened to me multiple times. In elementary school, I was considered a good student. One day, and a friend, a relative of my father, who succeeded to be elected to Haile Selassie's parliament called Nderase, said to my father, Obogaleta, this child has the potential to arrive at a high place in his life. However, he cannot reach anywhere with this name Mosisa. Change his name to an Amara or a Bible name. I have a very good names for you to choose from. I felt angry because at the time I liked my name. Thanks to my father, he refused the advice of this Nderase, and I am Mosisa today. Every Oromo person has a similar story of his own, her own, to tell. My friend lost a prestigious scholarship after it was known that his name was Gomfa. The list goes on. Many of us, including me, didn't know at the time what was wrong with our names, why we were discriminated against in that fashion. We certainly didn't know that the Oromo was majority in Ethiopia. I thought Oromos were found only in my local area, the place then called Wallagga Taklai Gizat. The first time I knew the root cause of my own humiliation was my exposure to scholarship. It was when I read a brief history of the Oromo as it is written by an Oromo scholar, Geda Malba. smuggled into Ethiopia while I was already a graduate student at the Department of Mathematics at Addis Ababa University. It contained just 75 pages. I read it over and over. I can say those 75 pages opened my eyes forever. For the first time, I knew that I have a country of my own and that it is called Oromia. With some of my friends, we started eagerly distributing it. We used to call it a pill. It was like a welcoming medication that cures that ails you. Every time an Oromo person argued with us about the glory of the Ethiopian Empire, we used to say, "Give him that pill." Soon after, many other smaller articles, booklets, and books started coming in. That was in 1990, and Derg was still in power. The names I remember were Asafa Jalata, Makurea Bulcha, Sisa Ibsa, Bani Holcomb, and Muhammad Hassan. At the time, I didn't know those guys. Now I know these are some of the founders of OSA, and they have come to be my colleagues, except for Obosisa Ibsa, whom I didn't get the chance to meet. The most powerful article series I admired the most was the Kindling Point series. Those pills, prepared by dedicated Oromo scholars and smuggled into the empire, taught me and many Oromos like me that the Oromo lost everything when they lost state power on their own country by force of arms. At this 27th anniversary of the association, it is appropriate to glimpse the paths OSA has gone through since its inception. Although I joined OSA during the recent years, the fact that I have spent 7 consecutive years in the executive committee gives me the opportunity to highlight some of the activities, achievements, and the challenges, even if from a relatively newcomer's perspective, and to take the liberty of giving a few suggestions for its future. What has OSA achieved? Number 1, OSA has documented and disseminated knowledge on the Oromo history, culture, religion, and made it known to the Oromo people and the world. Number 2, OSA has created a forum to encourage the finest experts of the Oromo, historians, anthropologists, engineers, linguists, musicians, health professionals, human rights activists, journalists, politicians, environmentalists, economists, statisticians, lawyers, agriculturalists, even mathematicians like me. We all carry out and encourage studies relevant to the Oromo and other peoples of the Horn of Africa. Number 3, OSA holds two conferences every year, the mid-year conference and the annual conference, where all issues relevant to the Oromo are presented and debated. Number 4, OSA publishes and disseminates newsletters, conference proceedings, and the Journal of Oromo Studies. This year marks 20 years of uninterrupted publication of our excellent peer-reviewed journal. Number 5, in recent years, OSA has actively engaged in advocacy work on a variety of issues affecting the Oromo at home, human rights, pollution of rivers and lakes in Oromia, environmental degradation, land grab, and continuing plight of the Oromo refugees. Since 2010 alone, we have written over 18 letters to various governmental and non-governmental organizations, the White House, U.S. State Department, the United Nations, UNHCR, and the Ethiopian government. I have released 10 appeal letters and other public statements since I took office. Number 6, several ad hoc committees have been erected over the years for different purposes. This year we have had 2 ad hoc committees, Committee for National Dialogue, CND, and the Scholarship Committee. What are the challenges? Number 1, OSA's work is based entirely on the efforts of volunteers. It needs dedicated people who are willing to sacrifice their time, their energy, and even their money. The most important sacrifice one can make is time. Time from your regular job, time from your family, time from rest and recreation, and time from sleep. Getting volunteers who are willing to dedicate their time and energy to serve OSA has always been a challenge. Number 2, OSA officers live in different cities in US or Canada. They run the day-to-day activities of OSA, maintaining contacts through telephone, email, or Skype. Regular meetings are always held by teleconference, Skype, or Paltalk. The Executive Committee and the Board of Directors members meet in person only once or perhaps twice a year. This year's board's meeting brought together persons from Sweden to California. Running the activities of the association while so far apart from each other has always been a challenge. Number 3, financial difficulty has always been a challenge to OSA's activities. Due to financial constraints, OSA could not have permanent office or paid employee, which in turn has constrained OSA's activities in many ways. The membership and registration fee collected once a year at annual conference is not enough to cover miscellaneous expenses for the entire year, mainly publication of JAWS, a Journal of Oromo Studies, covering the travel expense of guest speakers at the 2 conferences. Remarks on the future role of OSA. OSA's mission is to promote Oromo scholarship. However, there are many who criticize OSA for strictly pursuing the current mission of the association. Some say OSA is a bunch of scholars who get together once or twice a year, talk to themselves or to their circles, and go back to their respective states or countries, and come back a year later to do the same. They criticize OSA for doing not enough in transforming the Oromo nation and for being out of touch. While most such critics are people who do nothing for themselves, I see that these kinds of observations are born out of frustration. Those who want more have a good point. The awful things happening to the Oromo at home every day continue happening. Widespread arrest, false accusations and convictions, kidnappings and disappearances, torture, rape, school dismissals, and unlawful killings are rampant in Oromia. Instead of gun-carrying settlers, Oromo farmers are evicted from their homes by a new destructive force, bulldozers, and their land sold or leased to transnational or national investors against their will. Oromo forest is decimated and wildlife perish. Rivers and lakes are being grossly polluted. In light of the fact that the Oromo political forces are becoming increasingly weak and divided, our people are looking up to OSA to intervene and play a more pragmatic role. In order to play a more constructive role, it seems to me that it is time for OSA to update and expand its mission in such a way that its mission makes the scholarship, which documents all of these conditions, more widely known and available. This kind of advocacy incorporates seeking the protection of human rights, draws attention to environmental degradation, such as the decimation of national forests and pollution of common rivers and lakes, issues calls against eviction of Oromo farmers from their ancestral land, for containing the spread of disease, expanding education, advocating for good governance and the rule of law. I'm sure there are many who disagree with me on this, but I strongly believe that doing so will reinvigorate and make OSA more relevant. We will be discussing these issues at the OSA business meeting. I urge you to become a member of OSA. Come and participate in the deliberations. The history of the Oromo nation and its struggle for freedom is as old as the subjugation. They resisted the conquest. Nevertheless, they remained subjects and powerless for the remainder of the 19th century. They remained subjects the whole of the 20th century. They are still subjects today. The question now is, will they remain subjects for the 21st century? What is next for the Oromo? Through what routes might the Oromo gain freedom and dignity, and what is the role of the Oromo scholars as this occurs? What is the best path to empower the Oromo regarding their own affairs? What are the most important areas and disciplines that the Oromo and the scholars of the Oromo need to work on to gain freedom? The theme we chose for the 27th OSA Annual Conference, examining paths to Oromo empowerment in the 21st century, is geared towards answering this and other questions. We have invited 2 keynote speakers and are hosting 38 papers organized in 10 panels. The list of panels and the panelists is provided in the conference program. Please refer to it closely. It is an excellent group of actively engaged scholars. We are pleased to welcome each one of them. I would like to thank members of the local organizing committee at the Kabane or Bani Holcomb, Obbo Abarra Tafarra, Obbo J.D. Tufa, artist Abdi Nurasa, Dr. Masfin Abdi, and Durbe Tigist Gemme for working round the clock organizing this 27th OSA Annual Conference. They are joined by several other youth volunteers to host for the 2 days of the conference. I would also like to thank OSA Executive Committee members for their hard work and service for the year 2012 and 2013. Members of the 2 ad hoc committees we had for the past year also deserve special thanks. Now, let us begin the 27th Annual Conference of the Oromo Studies Association. Galatoma, thank you. Okay, now